Let's try this again. Hello there, fellas. Sentient Potato here, going to be reviewing my favorite horror film of all time, The Return of the Living Dead. I'd like to welcome everyone to my new and improved review series where I'm going to be reviewing whatever comes my way, be it movies, TV shows, games, tech, like for example this. This is just an example. I've already used this, so you know it's okay, but I'm just kind of giving you an example, guys, sorry. Now, to veteran fans of me and my content, you are well aware this is my second time reviewing The Return of the Living Dead. And the first time I reviewed this film, it was on a podcast with the guys over at the Bloody Bits Horror Show, which was a fantastic show. I wonder how those guys are doing nowadays. In an unrelated note, by the way, for those of you guys who haven't seen The Return of the Living Dead, what kind of rock you living under, and is there a vacancy? Because I'd love to live under there at this point. Now this movie, it has a great soundtrack, absolutely fantastic practical effects, a great sense of humor, and also a great full frontal by Linnea Quigley. Which admittedly, there's probably better things I could point out, but what a great film. I remember catching this film on YouTube as a kid. It was awesome. It's probably why I'm so much into horror, because I used to watch Return of the Living Dead as well as basically every other horror film I could get on my hands. If I could get my hands on it, I was going to watch it. That's just how it went. So, yeah. But I'd say more, but let's get into the film. Now, my favorite part of this film, alongside everything else, is the mock disclaimer at the beginning, which states, the events portrayed in these films are all true. The names are real names of real people and real organizations. And it's simple touches like this that really show the dedication, care, and love for the craft, in my opinion. Now, after the warning, it opens to the sign, you need a medical supply. You need it, we got it. Now larger. And it even has a little graphic of the United States on it. It's really well done. I almost wonder if that's a real place. Now, this time I was listening to it, I was using the original stereo mix for audio. Because, I'm somewhat of a purist. If I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to watch it with the original audio if I can. Not at the original resolution, because, my eyes are already bad. I don't need to strain them, But I won't judge any of you guys if you guys listen to it with remastered audio or even in the original resolution. Now, once you get past the disclaimer, the movie says it is July 3rd, 1984, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I thought was pretty neat. And it's crazy how much happens in this film in the time span of, maybe 12 hours-ish? That is absolutely insane. And again, with this movie, there is a lot of foreshadowing that comes on, even from the very beginning of the film. Because, once you get to our unwitting protagonists, Frank and Freddy, as well as Bert, he's actually the first one to crack a joke with foreshadowing. Because he says, whatever happens, don't name it after me. In fact, why don't I play a clip for you guys right now? Obviously, I won't show you guys the video, but that's just... Oh wait, no, actually, they don't have a clip with that. Nope, they do not have a clip with that. Never mind, I do apologize, chat. But, essentially, this first part of the film is, I say the first part, but the first, 3-4 minutes of the film are just Frank showing Freddy around, the building just to give him a tour. And for those of you guys who are wondering what Frank and Freddy look like, let me get this there. That one's Freddy, and that one's Frank. Let's see if I... Hold on, mute. I'm gonna see if I can find one where you can see their face better. It's all, there's a good sense of humor. These two, this one mostly cracks jokes back and forth with him. Just more, sort of a haze type deal. I say haze, but just more, Whoop.
Now you get some Excelsior over there and lay it in that crate.
Basically, most of, this here, this beginning is mostly just, the older person in the family exercising their rights to give their a relatively young family member some shit, showing them the ropes, giving them shit, just having a good time. That's mostly what this movie is at the beginning, having a good time until they don't. If that makes sense to you guys. And, yeah, Frank and Freddy. Now, the ones who play Frank and Freddy are... Hold on. The Return of the Living Dead characters. Frank is played by James Karen. I don't know if he did anything else, actually. The one who plays Freddy. Who plays Freddy in The Return of the Living Dead? Yes, Richard the Living Dead. Fucking... Thank you, jackass. Was it really Coleman Domingo? I don't think so. Because, yeah, I don't have one of them paints things, but come on. In Return of the... Like, I hate how Google's real shitty about that. Like, that's funny. It's interesting. Like, voice... Like, it used to actually read my voice a lot better. Like, I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but still. Okay, Tom Matthews. The one who plays Bert is Clu Coolidger. I don't know if he actually played anything else. Like in any other movies. Like, I don't know if any of these guys, like other than the two who returned from the sequel/reboot, did anything. Yeah, it's mostly just, shown, like, first, like I said, basically 3 minutes are just Frank showing Freddy around. And, just, giving shit, as you do. It's pretty cool, and there's a lot of foreshadowing that goes on in this. Like, even shows the ropes, because first day of job, gotta understand what the hell you're doing, more orientation type deal. And apparently, all the skeletons, I'd say the skeletons you see on the screen, but you don't see them on the screen. But essentially, the skeletons, apparently all come from India due to an international treaty. And I actually wonder if that's true or if that's just something made up for the movie. I honestly got no clue one way or another. Then Frank has a couple of questions about the skeleton. Well, I say about a couple of questions, but just questions in general about where the skeletons with perfect teeth come from, and asks Freddy, how many people die with a beautiful set of choppers in their puss, huh? And Freddy replies, nobody can think of. And then Frank makes a joke about a skeleton farm over in India, just to mess with Freddy, and it works. It's hilarious in my opinion. And one thing that gets pointed out is the split dogs, which is a very unique form of foreshadowing. Well, I say unique form, but just more outright stating it, because those actually do show up in play, because one of the things about the zombies in this films is they're not so much zombies so much as animated corpses that eat the brains of humans. And they are very, very smart. They got the full mental faculties, they know how to, do just about everything a human can, but they got the same strength as a human. I thought this was really neat. These are, Return of the Living Dead has, the first one, has the most dangerous zombies of any zombie media other than Project Zomboid that I am aware of. And, with the, split dogs, Freddy actually does a, little dog growl, and, Frank says, don't mess around. One thing that also gets pointed out is the fresh cadaver storage area, which is a unique bit of foreshadowing. I say unique, but meh. And apparently medical schools, as well as the U.S. Army, apparently buys these, with the latter doing it for ballistic tests. Which is a little bit of foreshadowing. Spoiler alert, the end. That's about as far as I'll go with that. And then, we get to see the cadaver, who at this point is frozen and unaffected by the 2,4,5 trioxin, which does get pointed out. And apparently they have more fresh cadavers in the first one, but they're expecting a Monday shipment. And Frank cracks a relatively funny joke at Freddy's expense. And then Frank tells Freddy he'll teach him how to fill out shopping forms. And after this, we end up cutting to a group of punks who are all relatively neat. There's Trash, Guz, Casey, Spider, Chuck, and Tina. And then the one who's not pictured, but does show up later in the film, is known as Suicide. Obviously the coolest of the punks. I mean, yeah, Linnea Quigley because of the full frontal, but she's just honestly a great actress. I wonder if she ever showed up in anything else. Yeah, these punks are planning a party, and they discuss where they're going to party, and Tina mentions Freddy's job, and Casey mentions going to Freddy, because, apparently he knows how to party. And then we actually cut back to Freddy looking through what looks like an anatomy or medical textbook filled with different images of human torsos. Including the cutout ones with the organs and all that. It was pretty neat. And then Freddy asks Frank what the weirdest thing he saw was, and that is a perfect segue to get this clip going. Which obviously I'm not going to show the clip, but it'll have the audio for it for you.
Frank? Yeah, kid. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Kid, I have seen weird things come and I have seen weird things go. But the weirdest thing I ever saw just had to cap it all.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right? Sure. What about it?
Did you know that?
Like, it's very interesting because, it's nice to see movies acknowledging Night of the Living Dead, but it's interesting that this one shows the route of it actually being based off a true story. Like, I thought that was pretty fascinating to me.
That movie was based on a true case.
Oh, come on, you're shitting me, right?
I ain't never been more serious in my life.
That's not possible. I mean, they showed zombies taking over the world.
Well, they changed it all around. What really happened was, back in 1969 in Pittsburgh at the VA hospital, there was a chemical spill, and all that stuff kind of leaked down into the morgue, and it made all the dead bodies kind of jump around as though it was alive.
What?
Which, even that, that's kind of inaccurate, which, that's interesting to me that that's the way he heard the story. And it makes me wonder if even that was partially changed because the Army found it out in this movie. I don't know if that was ever explained or not.
What chemical?
2,4,5-trioxin, it's called. It was to kind of spray on marijuana or something, and the Darrow Chemical Company was trying to develop it for the Army. And they told the guy who made the movie that if he told the true story, they'd just sue his ass off, so he changed all the facts around.
So what really happened?
Well, they closed it all down, see? And the Army shipped all that contaminated dirt and all those dead bodies out. And they kept it a secret.
So how come you know about it?
What typical Army fuck-up. The transportation department got the orders crossed. And they shipped those bodies here. Instead of to the Darrow Chemical Company.
That's still very interesting. Get it's a fuck up and all that, but did no one bother to see? Okay, something fucked up. What are we gonna do about it? Let's ask around. Let's check all the different places it was connected to. Who the hell is in charge of that universe's military? That's an impressive level of incompetence, I gotta say.
Hello? Oh, hi, honey. No, I'll be
Blah,
home.
blah, blah, call from the wife, blah, blah, blah. Normal shit.
Love you too, honey. Yeah. Kiss, kiss. Want to see him?
See him?
Corpses.
What are you talking about?
They're down in the basement.
No.
Come on.
No way.
And that is honestly one of the coolest parts. And this part actually does lead to a bit of foreshadowing even before the chemical gets released because, with the corpses, one of the things that happens, I say with the corpses, I distracted myself. No, what I meant was, with the foreshadowing, one thing that gets noticed is, he says, mind the stair. And I think I could actually, I wouldn't be surprised if this clip was actually the next clip, but with the foreshadowing, did I say the foreshadowing? Yeah, with the foreshadowing, it mentions a third step that has issues. Because I say the issues, but, mind the third step because it's a bitch. That's interesting to me. There's so much effort put into this movie. And again, not even 7 minutes in. And then, there's some elaboration. The bodies have been there for 14 years. And one thing with the bottles, like, let's get to that clip. I'm in the wrong clip. I'm in the wrong clip. That's embarrassing. Let me reopen close tab real quick. What I am looking for is the third clip.
Hey, mind the third step, it's a bitch.
And they just brought those bodies here and left them?
Well, you know the Army.
And they've been here all this time?
14 years, as I recall.
I'll link the clips that I use in the description, by the way.
There they are.
There's bodies in there?
In fact, so I don't forget, reopen closed tab,
Now you get...
paused. Now let me open the right clip, pause again, and get back to the clip. Well, let me go back. You spot what I spot in here? Screw. Screw. Or, actually, no, that doesn't even look like there's a screw in here. Screw. No screw. Possibly no screw. I thought there had been a screw in there when I was watching, but that doesn't look like there's a screw in there, chat. And then there's that, which looks like a hole of some sort, and then there's the rust, and that looks like hell. But you know what that tells me, chat? Like, other than the shoddy welding job, I think it's about right here he taps. Like, when it comes out, like, the fuck, man? Like, that is some impressively incompetent engineering. Again, hole in here. And then this, like, one of the coolest parts, property department of the Army, yada yada. Don't call this number, don't call random numbers. Even if it's a real number and all that, still, it's probably just, last I knew, that was a, call a stripper, like, hey baby, you wanna talk? It's $5 per minute, but I can give you a good time. Like, that's what as far as I knew, that's what the number was last time I knew, but, don't call the dang number. Whoops, wrong button. And, like, that is one of the neatest things, I just like that. Like, the little observation type deal. And there's this, which is either glass or acrylic. I couldn't figure that out. Like, neither one is exactly airtight. So I'm genuinely curious. And then there's,
Oh, shit!
yeah.
You said that thing was alive?
So they say.
And then we're about to see one of the worst ways to quote-unquote clean, in my opinion, and oh, it irks me. He sprays it, and then he does that to do... You're wasting so many damn paper towels. What the fuck, man? No. Just grab 2, maybe 3 squares, wax on, wax off, motherfucker. Damn.
Oh, God. Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no.
Frank,
These things were made by the
animal.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Geniuses. Well, genius singular, but still. Real smart. A little bit of a spoiler here, but there's a tar man, and that's what's in the barrel, because when that, when all the pressure releases, and, like, it goes there, it didn't show the clip, but, what happens is, like, the, zombie gets, like, all the crap on it, like, just comes off due to the pressure not equalizing, I guess. And, well, it becomes the Tar Man, which is the coolest damn zombie in all of media. Sorry, bub. You're not that cool. But, yeah. And then they breathe in a shitload of the chemical, and we finally hit the beginning credits. And then what it doesn't show is the vents start absorbing absolute shitloads of the 2,4,5 trioxin. And then this cuts to a gated military house, the 2 MPs at the entrance, and a man driving into his property. And he leaves his vehicle in full uniform. There's the house to classical music. His wife asks how his day was, which was, quote, crap. And then goes into his technology-laden cabinet, because it's a pretty technologically advanced cabinet. I wouldn't mind having a cabinet like that, just, minus the whole military thing. Nothing against the military, I just, I don't need military stuff, except for MREs. I won't complain about those. But, yeah. Just a couple of things, and then we cut back to the punks after a little bit of foreshadowing about the barrels. They could be anywhere. And we end up reaching one of the better parts of the soundtrack, and we finally see Suicide make his first appearance on the thing. He is, again, the coolest punk out of all of them. And one thing I noticed about all these punks, and this was my first observation, they're all dumbasses. I mean, they're smart, too, but I think it more falls under idiot savant. But, yeah. And there are two very, like with these punks, there are two different, two conflicting opinions on Anita. And then the Scuzz guy suggests screwing around in the military. And screw around they do. But when they get to the cemetery, the cemetery itself is vandalized on the outside very visibly. Like, there's all sorts of spray paint and whatnot. Which is... just... who the fuck vandalizes a cemetery? Bruh. But then music starts playing at the party, and then we cut back to Unita, where Frank and Freddy wake up with breathing issues and gagging, and very clearly not feeling good. They think the body in the barrel dissolved, which, the barrel being where Tarman is. And then it cuts, we see Frank get sick. And then that is the first 16 minutes of the film. But anyways, both people are very clearly sweaty and not looking well. And I quote, they almost look as bad as I do when I go running. But Frank and Freddy think the trioxin coated everything inside, and Frank even sprays some Lysol in what was, like I figure, some very expensive, or at least semi-expensive product placement. And when he sprays the Lysol, it's not, but it's more... Like, it is one very, very long Lysol spray. What the actual heck, man? That would be unbreathable. But anyways, then we see those split dogs whimpering and panting because they've been reanimated. And it scares the shit out of Frank. And Frank, with a clutch, actually beats the split dog, which stop. And they stop because I think Freddy stops him, if I remember right. But then they realize the cadaver reanimated. And the butterflies, like, even with the split dog and the butterflies, like, that is some very impressive practical effects. Like, it's really cool to me. But then both Frank and Freddy are very hysterical due to everything that's happened. And then Freddy suggests calling the cops on the number on the tank, which would have been the smart thing. Like, actually calling in the first place as opposed to this shit. Like, this movie all could have been avoided in the span of 16 minutes. But instead, they call Bert, and then it cuts to the best scene in the movie, aka the Linnea Quigley, trash strip scene, which has a very ironic monologue with her character talking about dying. And the way she talks, her wish gets granted, but it's also just a great song. And then Bert chews out Frank for being a dumbass, because, these are not very bright characters. Which, yeah. And then, Bert mentions they'll have to kill the cadaver. And, again, like I put in my notes, this movie has some of the genuinely most dangerous and intelligent zombies in any fiction other than Project Zomboid, as far as I know. And, Frank mentions a surgical drill and then is told to hold a pickaxe instead by Bert, who gets the game plan going. Basically, everyone except for Bert is, scared shitless. And then the zombie rushes for Bert, which scares the shit out of him and tackles him not through the skeletons. And I'm just going to point out, guys, this zombie is yellow, and I mean yellow, and buck-ass naked. And then Bert slams the pickaxe through the zombie skull, which doesn't do anything other than make it scream. And Frank and Freddy are hysterical, and Bert says to hold the corpse down and get a saw to cut its head off, which, a very dumb decision, because all this does, chat, is cutting the head off just makes it so the body operates normally, because basically, the only way you can kill these zombies is to make sure all that's left is ashes. So, yeah. But the beheaded zombies, like, ends up making a real mess of the warehouse. Like, it is insane the amount of mess it makes. And then one of the notes I put in, someone better take that out of his pay. And then Bert says to get a rope. And then they actually reference, Night of the Living Dead and how it's working there isn't working in real life. And then Bert arguably the smartest person in the room at that second, suggests destroying the cadaver completely until nothing's left. And one thing that's constant throughout my notes until the crescendo is Frank and Freddy are looking progressively worse. And then Bert mentions that Ernie Kaltenbrunner works late Friday nights, and Ernie being the escaped Nazi, which is hilarious in a way. You know, when you watch a zombie movie, do you expect escaped Nazi? I don't, and it's kind of hilarious. But anyways, he is an embalmer at the mortuary. Now, Eddie the acts of Bloody Bits, as well as that Tim guy, whose name I do not remember, and I do apologize, Eddie. But, or Tim, whatever the heck. Again, do apologize. But, we're all, like I said, 100% sure that Ernie Kaltenbrunner is an escaped Nazi. And we had a lot of fun absolutely riffing on that and whatnot during the Bloody Bits thing. Like, it was great. Like, I'm not sure how much that got cut out or what have you, but, like, there was a lot of jokes. Like, it was a great damn time. And then I remember during the Bloody Bits thing, like, we got to the Ernie scene when we actually see him, and finally, some good fucking music, which, ooh, do I have some egg on my face for. But Bert's apparently been friends with Ernie for about 25 years and says maybe he'd cremate the zombie out of friendship, but he's not sure. And I almost made a Bert and Ernie joke this time. Bert mentions they got no choice but to trust Ernie after Frank asks, and then Frank asks how they're going to get there. And again, Frank and Freddy are looking even worse. And then Bert says, "Give me the bone saw." And we cut back to the punks in the cemetery, and it is now 9:16 e.m. Yeah, E.M. Good English, me. 9:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Suicide is buck-ass naked and apparently hot, and I mean heat hot. We already know she's the other hot. And Wimp is told to scram. Suicide gets into a small speech, while Trash is grinding on him the whole time, and Suicide tells Trash to show some fucking respect for the dead and pushes her off him. We cut to Wimp and Casey, and then the punks spot Freddy, Frank, and Bert head towards mortuary, and I can only describe as an extremely suspect manner, because if I were to see that shit in the middle of the night, I'd be like, oh fuck, cannibals, you know? Like, it's some nutty shit. And then a Wimp raised the valid question that's pretty dumb to the audience, but valid otherwise. And then we cut to pretty good music. I say pretty good music, but the good music with Ernie smoking from a pipe while working on a stiff, experiencing rigor mortis, which again, foreshadowing. And he's what I'm pretty sure he was doing was draining the fluids from the corpse. And then when Bert, my note is Ernie pulls a suspiciously German pistol on Bert in a clearly trained response, and Bert just barely avoids being shot and says, "Take it easy," and mentions that Ernie's fast on the draw. And there's a coffee offer, Ernie drinks some coffee, and then a bit of foreshadowing shows how he's breaking, the rigor mortis of the corpse he's working on. It gives a relatively hands-on show to Bert. Again, it is a very thorough explanation, which again, like, it gets pointed out later in the movie with, Freddy, I mean. And then Bert, in what I can only describe as an awkward way, asks for a favor in silence. Ernie asks what they're carrying in, and then Frank and Freddy are looking even worse. And it's funny, like, the further it goes on, the worse they look. Like it's a very fast progression to undead. And then one thing I noticed was that, and this is something I hadn't noticed until this viewing of The Return of the Living Dead, is the back of Freddy's Letterman jacket says, "Fuck you." And I'm not kidding when I say that. When Ernie asks what's in the bag, Bert lies and says, "Rabid weasels." And Ernie says, "Call an animal shelter," which, totally fair. But Bert says, "Where do we get out?" which would hurt his business. And then Ernie, which is kind of surprising, is genuinely balking and says he could take him out, into the park and put him out of misery. And Bert asks Ernie to keep a secret and makes him swear. And Bert and Frank show what's in the bag, and Ernie is very clearly unnerved. And then the hand gets hold of Ernie's leg and tears. Like, when they get it off, like, it doesn't hurt Ernie, but it does, or I don't think it hurts Ernie. But when they get his arm off, like, it tore off, or at least ripped the hell out of the leg of the pants. And Frank is whimpering, Ernie is very, very clearly unnerved. And then we cut back to the punks with Wimp just absolutely sucking at flirting with Casey, and then Suicide says to Casey, "Fuck you, ballbuster." We go back to Spider and Tina. And Tina goes looking for Freddy. There's siren sounds in the distance, and the town looks oddly abandoned. Which, that's something I noticed. Like, the town looks very oddly abandoned, which makes me wonder if if some of the aircraft did escape out and already had infected a couple of people unknowingly. Like, now I got no proof to that, but it's something I always wondered, especially with a sequel that never happened. Anyways, Tina rings the bell of Unita, and then we cut back to the morgue crew with Bert and Freddy looking even worse now. Again, the makeup crew did a damn good job in this film. Like, everyone did a damn good job. And Ernie goes a little quid pro quo on Bert and asking for a little favor. And then cuts the rest of the leg off his torn pants. And we cut to the crematorium, and Ernie is saying that Bert's going to owe him a big one. And apparently, this is something I didn't know, and I don't know if it's actually true, but the heart is the hardest thing to burn. Now, personally, that's not something I want to find out, but again, from experience. And then Frank and Freddy look even worse, and Frank talks some shit. But anyone could operate that, or something like that. But again, total shit talking. And then when the corpse cremates, a whole bunch of smoke that is colored green starts leaving the crematorium, kickstarting the Return of the Living Dead and triggering acid rain. And I'm talking a major downpour here, worse than like one of the worst. Like it was rough. Like it was like absolutely insane the amount of rain coming down. It flooded like hell. And then the punks leave the cemetery in a hurry. And the grass is actually smoking, so heavy emphasis on the acid part of the rain. And we see it cuts to Tina, who gets into the Unita building, while the rest are rushing to the car and get the top on the car. And their skin is burning from the rain, which makes me wonder if it actually was kind of turned them already. But I got no proof one way or another. And then Trash finagles something off of Casey to dry off with, or at least that's what my notes say. Like, it was something, like, something to dry off. It looked vaguely like undergarments, so who knows? And then, we see some smoke leaving the crematorium door, and again, it's a pretty good amount of smoke coming out from the door too. Which, if there was chemicals and whatnot, they should not be in the crematorium. Or it should be way better sealed, shouldn't it? Like, I know jack shit about cremators or any of that, but I wonder. And then Ernie says the rain is coming down like einen getrunken soldat. See the rain seeping into the ground and graves, and even touching, wasn't it the shoe of a cadaver? Which this shot, like, with the rain coming in, the corpses coming back, like, that gets reused in the end for their sequel baiting. And then, we get a little bit of exposition, and a clear, oh, is there anyone? Which, anyways, we see Frank and Freddy looking relatively corpse-like, nowhere near as bad as they could be, but pretty bad. Freddy's saying, Freddy looking even worse and saying he's feeling really sick, and very clearly experiencing rigor mortis, and they're sweaty as hell, which that's something I never understood. What's with all the sweat? And they mention the chemical exposure. Arnie runs but gets brought back in. Freddy makes it back to the chair, and paramedics get called by Arnie, who is the calmest one, clearly, and says they're poisoned. Crematorium is apparently the Resurrection Funeral Home, which I saw that. Resurrection Funeral Home. I never understood that name. It's hilarious when you consider everything, but wow. My note here is, not even the midway point, wow, which, again, that's one of my issues with The Return of the Living Dead. Great horror movie. I was wrong when I called it the greatest. But that movie, it's good, but it drags. It's a 7 out of 10. But, yeah. Mary says they're on the way, and Trash hears what can be described as the wails of the dead. And, yeah. And then we cut to the slow-mo shot of the dead breaking out of their graves, which, again, is reused for the end. And again, there's some very impressive makeup work. And then it cuts back to Tina looking for signs of life. And I put, damn, she's a slow mover. Then she goes down the stairs, somehow not getting the trick stare the first time. And then she spots the barrel with what I can only describe as a new handprint. And then we spot what I put as my absolute favorite zombie, which I'm 100% right about, Tarman. She runs back up, hits the stair, goes down, and then the punks make for the Unita building. And I put, holy shit, I love Tarman. That's such a cool zombie. And yeah, Tina hides herself in the metal cabinet thing, and because Tarman is very intelligent, it devised a pulley system to break open the cabinet to get to Tina's brains, and then suicide, and then make it into Tina's brains. And Trash's skin at this point is really burning, and they hear Tina calling for help, and they make it down to her. And then they get scared, obviously, because, pulled back the thing, see the zombie, and then it grabs suicide and eats his brains, at least partially. And then I describe it as, these dumbasses distract Tarman, and Spider needs help getting the door barred. Then it cuts to the paramedics arriving at the funeral home, and Frank and Freddy experiencing hypothermia, looking completely dead now, with Freddy having an orange tongue. Paramedics ask about the poison, start taking vitals, can't detect any blood pressure, pulse, or any of that. And they are literally room temperature. And the punks board the door shut and are very, at least, smart adjacent people, and they're freaking the hell out. It cuts to the graveyard, which is flooded, and they spot the dead leaving the graves with, again, very, very great practical effects. And they see Tina tripping but rescued. And like I put it, Trash gets her wish in a sick, twisted sort of way. It's back to the dead adjacent guys who are dead but not quite, but not zombies either. See the punks scared trying to get inside the mortuary, with Ernie asking if they're crazy or on PCP. Spider and Scuzz made it to the mortuary. The others, Wimps and Casey, made it to the office in Unita. That'll be the office in the beginning. Paramedics leave, get to the ambulance, and inside start the car with lights. You see the dead, which rush Jerry and then the other guy and kill them. I don't know if they ever named the other guy, but I know Jerry was named. Then Bert realizes how bad things have gotten, which Ernie does as well. And we go back to Wimp and Casey, who rush for their phone to call for help. But they are rushed by a zombie who breaks in, and Wimp barricades the door. And then we see Tina spotting Freddy, who again, basically dead. Arnie goes to go out, realizes something wrong, exercising caution, notices the zombie eating the brains of the paramedic and shoots it, which, bad idea, but, it's totally understandable. But, yeah. The zombie in the scene, I'm pretty sure is played by a little person, or a triple amputee, but judging by the length of his left arm, I was assuming both, because, his arm was not, regular person proportion. It was, half of this-ish. But then, like I said, I'm pretty sure triple amputee or something like that. I couldn't figure that out. But then Ernie closes what he can, and again, is very clearly freaking out, and we're talking genuine hysterics, and he mentions how these zombies are all over the cars. He's very genuinely shaken. It's surprising. Then we get into a montage-ish thing, which shows the barricading and whatnot, with Ernie asking for help and getting it. Which I have called Spider one of the smartest people in this movie, which I'm not sure whether I should walk back or not, because he is one of the smartest ones, but still. And they remember the windows in the chapel, which they're boarded on the outside, but still need to get done on the inside, too. Then Bert and Scuzz fight off what they can. We get back to the iconic "Send more paramedics" scene, which is a great scene. Then it goes back to the barricade, with Spider asking how many windows they have, and there's no more. Oh yeah, Scuzz... Oh no, he hasn't died yet. Sorry, spoilers. And back to the corpse twins, as I called Frank and Freddy. And then everyone's freaking out a bit for very obvious reasons. Then Bert rehashes what happened at the beginning of the film, explaining to what the fuck happened. Or close enough. Then Freddy's having the rigor mortis, which Ernie realizes. We spot the visible signs of it, including the blood pooling where he sat down. And then Scuzz realizes what's going on because he's, again, shockingly smart. So I'm genuinely assuming idiot savants or something like that, with Ernie trying to calm things down. And more paramedics come, only to get rushed by the undead. They see zombies breaking into one of the barricaded rooms. Then Scuzz gets grabbed and unfortunately killed by a torso zombie, which sounds kind of interesting. His brains did they get partially eaten? His Skillbot got bitten into, but I don't know if Scuzz actually died, so I'm kind of surprised you didn't see him come back in a zombie. But that was kind of interesting to me. And then I put it, Scuzz gets grabbed and unfortunately killed by a torso zombie, specifically one with better tits than Linnea, which is kind of hilarious. But again, it's a damn well done puppet thing, and it got reused again in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Which, oh man, it's a damn shame that never got the sequel it deserved. And then Ernie gets the torso zombo. Good English, me. The torso zombie, and gets it tied down so we can examine it. And then he, asks it some questions which it replies to. And the zombies apparently feel themselves rot, and eating the brains temporarily relieves it. It's like I'd almost describe brain eating to zombies as pain pill addiction. You get the temporary relief, but it's nowhere near as good the further you get. The further into the addiction you get. You get highs, then lows. Or at least that's really what it seems like to me. Then Spider has him talk in the hall and asks how to kill him. Where they're animated, not undead. The only way you can stop him is to burn him to ashes. And then you see Trash reanimated as one of the zombies now. We cut to a homeless guy pushing a car, picking up trash, and when zombie trash approaches, and this guy thinks he's getting somewhere. He's about to have the best night of his life, and nope, he's dead. Then we cut to a brief interlude of a police operator, and then, like, completely inconsequential, I'm just going to point out, and then we cut back to Wimp and Casey, wondering if they'll be rescued, with Casey doing an insult and then told me to Wimp. And we cut back to the mortuary crew with a valid point about tying up Frank and separating him in case they start acting funny, which is brought up to Tina's dismay. Then Frank looks even worse now, and Spider's right, thinking it's a good idea. They suggest locking them in the chapel and laying them on the carpet gently. Tina says she's staying when Bert brings up that they'll have to lock it. And we cut to the bring more cops scene, because, a couple of cops come to investigate. They get bum rushed, they die. But then, after bring more cops. Then, like, one thing I noticed with the cops is they had police revolvers, which, as far as I know, those only exist in Japan now, which is interesting. Yeah, these cops, they discover the corpses, fire ineffectually, and they get swarmed and die. And Ernie realizes it's a death trap, and he says as much. And the zombie, send more cops. And Ernie mentions the crawl space, and he has some nitric acid, with Frank spewing some blood foam. Same with Freddy, except Frank is the more stubborn of the two. Like, he basically survives the whole movie. Survives. Which is interesting. Whereas Freddy, like, he completely finishes reanimating. And, says some shit, tries to go after them. And, Freddy got splashed with nitric acid. And again, the makeup effects and whatnot are really good for this. Like, you'll even see him later, like, it's really well done. Then the chapel gets locked up, with Ernie slapping a panicking spider out of his torso. Panicking spider out of his spiral, and Torso Lady starts going, brains, brains, brains! With Freddy trying to break out, and Bert realizing they're going to have to fight their way out. And unfortunately, Ernie has his foot broken, he can't run or walk. And again, there's some damn good makeup work in this. There's a plan, and Ernie reminds Bert of the favor, with Bert and Spider making it to the police car and realizing they can't stay at the mortuary. They're hauling ass out back of the car where Spider's freaking out, and there's still a major, what I can only describe, Legion of the Undead. So they go for the warehouse, and the car is totaled, and that sumbitch goes up in flames. Then we go back to Freddy, blindly flailing through, and Tina and Ernie making it to the crawl space. And then there's what I can only describe as an oddly romantic suicide scene, with the somehow still vaguely alive Frank operating the incinerator and throwing himself in. But before he does that, he hangs his ring on the lever, prays for forgiveness, and throws himself in, dying in agony, and you can hear the screams. Anyways, we cut back to more cops and the cop who get swarmed, and then there's a helicopter, and the whole area is blockaded. Like, the two cops who come are, or the two cop cars, who come, also stopped. So, it sucks, but it is what it is for them, unfortunately. And then the only phone is the basement, which they gotta make it past the tar man. And, you know what? Bert has a plan. And, he has a plan anyways. And then it goes to Freddy still being a menace, who can apparently smell Tina's brains, which is kind of neat. I wonder if they can actually smell the brains, or if they can smell the living and they just associate the smell of living with brains. Also something I don't know if it was ever explored. And anyways, Freddy tries breaking in and guilting Tina to, let him have her brains. And then Ernie looks like he's contemplating, like, the way he's holding Tina and the way he's holding the gun. That's something I was kind of surprised that he didn't kill Tina. Like, the way it is, it genuinely made me think he was going to, pow, pow. But I don't know if that was ever explained. Then we get to, Bert's plan, and, Bert succeeded. He got a home run with Tarman's head. And they make it to the basement, and they see Suicide's corpse. Bert calls the police. Police can't hear what's going on, and the undead rush the cops, completely overwhelming. And Bert, realizing what's happened, realizes he only got one choice now, which was the choice that should have happened in the very beginning, and calls the number on the barrel, which we cut to a place called Calm Q, and then Colonel Glover from the beginning taking notes of what's going on, with the wife very clearly horrified. The Colonel goes to his cabinet of what I describe as technological military wonders, gets the facts and calls the brass, and then says the eggs have hatched. Cut to an officer who sets up a precision nuclear strike on the area, which was affected by the trioxin. It was one of the best animations of the time. That even holds up now. They hear the nuke approaching back at Unita, and Freddy breaks in just as it hits. Zombies look at the sky as Louisville is being struck by the nuke, but then, Bert goes, "You guys hear that?" And, yeah. But then it cuts to a bit of sequel baiting with more acid rain and green clouds, which never come to fruition. Because, like I said, all the sequels except for 4 and 5 are connected. Like, there's no connection to any of the films except for 4 and 5, which are connected to each other. Which sucks, but, it is what it is. And we see, like I said, a reused shot from earlier in the film, and then finally hit the credits, which, yeah. Like, again, this film is good, but it drags on. But then, we see a reused shot, and then we hit the, credits. And yeah, like I said, what a great movie other than the dragging on. Like, I forgot how much I loved this, and I also forgot how completely bleak and avoidable this whole situation was. Like, what dumbasses some of these guys are. But then I'm glad to have watched this. Thank you guys for being here. If I had to give this movie a rating, yeah, 7 out of 10. Because it drags on, unfortunately. It drags on too much, even. But, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry for kind of being rambly in places. I just needed to, when I need to get myself going, I gotta, get myself going. Sorry that this is so late. It'll probably be uploaded in the morning, which, it is, I say in the morning, but by midnight, so, it is what it is. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back tomorrow.